So thank you so much for everybody coming out tonight on this beautiful weather. We were a little bit worried that it was going to be stormy today, but we got lucky. So many familiar faces in the room that I'm excited to see. It's been a long time since we've done any kind of an event like this, so it's great to see familiar faces. It's great to see some new faces. For those of you who don't yet work for Blend, we hope that you become an employee and join us, and we'll have many more of these kind of events in the future. First, I just want to say a big thank you to Kelsey and to Cal. They've done a wonderful job putting this evening together. And of course, our amazing panel of Blend alum who will tell their career stories, and I hope that you'll have a chance to meet them personally after the panel is over. We have this space till 7:30. On your way out, make sure you grab a tumbler. Cal will be handing those out. If we don't get a chance to meet face-to-face while you're here, make sure you grab one of us. We want to make sure we have a chance to meet each and every one of you. And enjoy the food, enjoy the drinks, and absolutely enjoy the panel. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey, but thank you again for being here, everybody.
Thank you, Maggie. Oh, I am loud. Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Kelsey Maddox. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Specialist here at Blend. So today we have a wonderful panelist for you guys here. All of them have a story of their careers through marketing, product development. They have some ties to Blend, which is also great. And they just, will share their journeys and kind of, a little food for thought as you're thinking about your careers. Because I know a lot of you are early on, so it's great to hear from people who have been walking in your shoes, been there, done that, and how you guys can be successful in your careers. So we have Miss Nikki Darden, we have Matt Cluney, Adam Sobol, and Roslyn Smith. Yes, wonderful, wonderful people. So I'm going to ask them some questions, and then at the end, we're going to do a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions for the panelists, you'll be able to ask any of those. And then afterwards, if it's something you guys want to talk about with them separately, feel free to, come up to them and pick their brains if you need it. So, all right. So I'm going to get started with Roslyn. You want to be my first victim today?
Victim, sure.
So Roslyn, what was your move into product development like? Why, how, why do you love it?
I can say it was very challenging, and part of it was because I had fought so hard to get into a digital product management role. It was considered like a hot job at the company I was at the time, and competitive. And I felt like there was a question over whether or not I could do it. But I happened to be in a leadership accelerator program for Black and Brown talent, where I met a mentor who coached me through the interview process. And it was as a result of her support, sponsorship, and coaching that I was able to secure a digital product management role. And I think I brought a lot to it because previously I had done client sentiment analysis, so I really understood the client voice and kept that at the center of everything I was doing.
Yeah, and you are currently the SVP of Digital Product Management at Brown Brothers Harriman. That's awesome. Yes, girl.
Thank you.
So if you could just speak to a little bit about, your career path and kind of how you got to where you are now.
Oh, that's a really
Do we
crazy.
have time for that?
I don't know. So someone call Oprah, Yama, get some
I think
tissues.
she's here though, right? She lives in New York, right?
So this is actually really full circle for me because I used to work for a lobbyist, and I volunteered for an organization called Dress for Success. One day I was volunteering, and there was a panel just like this where Sandy Webster was one of the guest speakers. And she had this consulting company called Consultants to Go. And so I ended up networking with her. Next thing you know, I was sending my resume. Then I was meeting people like Maggie. Then I was going on interviews at all these different, financial institutions. And then I was working at Citi and as a consultant, doing the client analysis work. I eventually got hired full-time and promoted from there. So it's been an interesting journey, and what I enjoy now is that I got to experience retail banking, and now I'm getting to see the other side of investment banking, which is a different client base.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's definitely full circle for you.
Right.
Dress for Success is still a organization that we work with. We just sponsored them beginning of the year for their huge conference that they had, and it was like hundreds of people. So keeping it in the family.
Well, not only that, and it hasn't been announced yet, but the board president of that Dress for Success chapter asked me to join the board recently, so I'm really
Awesome!
Yeah.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
That's amazing. Well, I'll be hitting you up more because we'll be very familiar with each other. All right, Adam. Hello. Hello, Adam. You are currently the head of acquisition and lifecycle marketing at OneMain Financial. Amazing. So, talk to us a little bit about your background and how you got here, and your experience that you had with Blend as well.
Yeah, my career is sort of like a pizza with lots of toppings on it. If you had have asked me whether I'd be a marketer at any point, I would have said hell no. But that's where I landed. Did anyone here know what they wanted to be when they left school?
No.
Excellent. You're in good company, because I still don't know what the hell I want to do.
All in the same boat.
I'm from Australia. I started off by taking the first job that I could get, and it was with a telco company, and I was managing a fleet of cars that would install, I think it was 3G network equipment back then, but now it's whatever it is, 5G. And I just went where opportunity took me. I ended up transitioning into procurement and supply chain, and then I got an opportunity to work for American Express in Australia. And above anything related to career, I wanted adventure, and I wanted to go experience other countries, live in other places. So I thought, Amex is my ticket to go other places, especially New York. So I took the job, not knowing where it would go. Did procurement in Australia, got the opportunity to move to India for a little while and do procurement there. A year after that, I was in New York. Didn't care about my career. I was in New York. I wanted to have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wasn't even sure that I liked Amex in the US. Didn't care.
I'm glad you did.
And then something, one of those moments happened. The group that I was in was being dissolved. I got to go in this new group doing internal consulting, and all of a sudden it was like, wow, this is really exciting. I get to work on some really good business problems with some really smart people. And a couple of years doing that, I was in the right place at the right time. I got to work on some high-profile things, and then all of a sudden, I'm doing a rotation in marketing. And I studied business, and my most hated subjects were marketing. I ended up in marketing, and I loved it. And I did a couple of rotations at Amex, and then left to do a few other things. Came to Blend when it was C to G, and it was just getting started and growing a lot. Did some little bit of marketing there, and then ended up where I am now, back in a hardcore marketing role. And it's just something that I've gravitated towards and sort of learnt along the way, and it keeps me interested. There's always a challenge, and now I'm a marketer.
Yeah, now you're a full-fledged marketer.
Yeah.
Who would have thought, right? Now you have an interesting story when it comes to Blend and Amex as well. So
Yes.
I know we have some people here who are part of the MET program. So
Put your hands up.
Yeah, who's all part of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll want to talk to this guy over here. Yeah, you want to talk a little bit about that process that you did?
Yeah, so nice to see some of your faces. So when I was in marketing at Amex, we had a challenge with our operating model. We had marketers who were doing everything from strategy right through trying to push things through the pipes, which you guys are very familiar with. in campaign execution. So we worked with C2G at the time to create this model where we now have very separate strategic marketing resources doing campaign strategy and sort of a hybrid mix of internal full-time employees and consultants coming in and augmenting this team who can become experts in campaign execution, funnel things through compliance and legal, and add a lot of value from a process perspective there. So I got to work with the C2G folks to build that program, and I think it's become a really good embedded operating model in the company. But what's amazing about it is I've seen so many people come into Amex through that program as consultants, and they're now like directors in marketing and VPs. It's really a great way to get a foot in the door in an amazing company, and you learn the critical foundational stuff, and then you just keep working your way up.
Yeah, and I heard it's a great like mentorship as well. There's a ton of people that want you to succeed while you're there. So it's a really great, like you said, first get your foot in the door at a large company and get to work cross-functionally with other departments. So those of you that are in MET, you could probably speak to that a little bit too.
I highly recommend it.
He's not partial or anything.
And I'm not even there anymore.
Yeah. That just tells you how much he likes it, right? He's not even there, so. Awesome. Matt, you're going to be my next next victim here. So you are currently the VP of Marketing at Oncue. So I'd love to know more about where you came from.
Sure.
Where are you going?
Yeah, so VP of Marketing at Oncue, a company that probably no one in this room has heard of, maybe except me and a few folks at Blend360. We are we're a technology company that provides an operating system for moving companies and other local service businesses. And I've been at the company just a short time. Most of my career, or over the last few years, has been at smaller B2B, fintech, or SaaS companies. But my early career was at American Express. Right out of my MBA program, I did a summer internship there and translated that into a 12-year career, both in New York and in London, B2B, B2C. It was amazing first experience. And I also had the opportunity both to be a Blend360 consultant as well as a client. We can talk more about that in a bit.
Yeah, I was going to say you've hit all the boxes when it comes to Blend, right?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that you'll pick up on by hearing some similar names and similar company names, is that it really is one of the benefits I found as being as a consultant is really you're really building your network.
Right.
Right. And there are people on this panel that I've known for several years, and there are people that I just met tonight. But you're always kind of building that network. And I think that's one of the great advantages of being a consultant. It definitely helped me as I was thinking about when I first started as a consultant, what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go next.
Yeah. So I know you have worked in startups as well.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about your experience at startups versus big like Citi or Amex that you've been at?
Sure. So yeah, as I said, I worked at American Express for about 12 years, and then fast forward a few years at Citibank for about 4 years. So I have this big company experience, and when I was thinking about my next move and where I wanted to go and try something a little bit on the smaller end, one of the advantages that I thought I had was I knew what great looked like from like a marketing operation perspective, and there were companies out there that didn't have that wanted that, and they were looking for people who had that specific experience. And so that was what I found is a little bit as my niche. I could go and say, look, I know what great looks like. I would love to help you build it, and that's kind of where I've been over the last few years in these kind of smaller, more startup Series A type companies.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other
Hey guys, I'm sorry, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, can we just quiet just a little bit?
No worries.
Thank you.
So that was one of the things that I just thought was great, and I borrow a lot on that experience. And one of the other great things, I've mentioned this already, but just to underline it a bit more, is that network. That you take. As I said, like I met so many great people at American Express and other places that I worked that you continue even with or without the benefit of LinkedIn, that you're always kind of part of your network that you can draw on at any point in your career. So.
Yeah, it's a great exposure to hiring managers, to people who are working alongside you. It's a great exposure, great networking, because believe it or not, there used to not be a LinkedIn, and you had to do everything in person. Yeah. So, Now we have the benefit of utilizing LinkedIn.
Right.
Thank you. Nikki
Yes.
Miss Nikki Darden. You are currently the head of internal brand and global integration at Citi, and she is also a client. So we just, yes. So
City Army, hey.
yeah, so I'd love to hear more about your experience and what you've been doing at Citi and how Blend has helped you with Citi.
Yeah, I think I've done more things with Blend than you have.
I don't know.
I'm at Citi. I lead a team that actually has 4 different marketing functions within it, part of our global marketing organization. I lead internal brand engagement and global integration, as Kelsey said. Also lead DEI strategy for the brand and purpose marketing, which includes all of our ESG efforts. So it's a pretty big job. And Blend definitely helped contribute to me getting there. So I started my career, I've been in financial services for most of my career. I won't go through all the early jobs, but like Matt, I was at American Express for 12 years. When I left American Express in 2010, I went to Citi in our U.S. consumer marketing group, did a few different roles there. Had a rotational assignment, an international expat assignment for about 7 months in Brazil, which gave me international exposure of what it looks like to work for a global brand, but in a company that's not the headquarters. And so after that role, I came back and had the opportunity to lead a global program, which I loved, but it was very intense, and it wasn't my dream. And so in 2016, I actually left Citi to start my own company. I learned very quickly that I hate entrepreneurship. More power to every entrepreneur in the room. I'm sure some of you are. And I know that because one of the things that I did, this is why I know I did more things than you did, Matt. One of the things that I did, I was a consultant while I was an entrepreneur, working on a specific project that I will say went into me when the role that I had when I went back to Citi. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But I was with Blend, C2G at the time, as a consultant while I was working my entrepreneurial endeavor. Hated it, left, stopped doing that, took another job, I won't say where, hated it very briefly. Thank goodness Blend was there again and hired me as part of the core team. I don't know exactly how to describe it, to help explore a new line of business that the company was going into. See, so I did 2 different kinds of things.
I think there's a little competition here.
I'm just saying. I did 2 different kinds of things, and I had already been a client. I'm just saying.
No big deal.
And then I went back to Citi in 2018, and like I said, leveraged I worked on a global project as a consultant with Blend, and I leveraged what I learned working on that initiative to help get the role that I came back to at Citi when I returned, which was head of global integration for the global consumer bank. And then, my career has really expanded. And like I said, I left because 1, I was burnt out. 2, I wasn't doing my dream job. I can say, and this sounds like fluff, I can say that Blend helped get me into my dream job. I can say that unequivocally because I have my dream job now. I tell people all the time I have the best job in the company. I love what I do. Most days I'm excited to get up and go to work. Some days I absolutely don't want to do it.
Maybe not Mondays.
Exactly. And so the role expanded organically, and now I'm a managing director at a major global financial services firm.
Yeah, and I know obviously D&I strategy is huge for you. So, what has D&I meant to you and being able to implement that in such a large organization?
Yeah, so when I came back, throughout my career, when I was at Amex, people used to call me the diversity police. They were like, oh God, we can't say anything edgy around Nikki because I'm going to be like, don't say that. I'm not that bad. Sometimes I am. When I was in the global integration role, when I came back to Citi, I just tried to raise sort of the vibration around inclusion at Citi, and it was sort of my side job. And then it got formalized a little bit in that I became the diversity champion for consumer marketing. And so I got brought into a bunch of conversations just to say, hey, do we need to think about something differently or not? And now that is formally part of my role. And it includes things like supplier diversity. It includes things like we just, led by a former Blend consultant, actually, we launched a partnership with Getty Images where we produced this Getty DE&I toolkit that really helps you think through, we call it 8 different lenses of identity, to really understand how can you just be more inclusive and provide a speed bump. So as you're doing campaigns, creating work, you just think twice about who you're reflecting and how you're reflecting them. And that's actually a global project. Just last night, we launched our Singapore toolkit. And that work has just become core to what we do, what my team does, currently staffed by another Blend consultant who had an event to go to, so she couldn't be here tonight, but it's all good. I was like, what do you mean you have other plans?
These are your only plans.
Exactly. But that work, the other thing, and I don't want to go on too long, but the other thing that it has done, first, I've had to formalize it, right? It's not just my lived experiences are not enough. So I've had to bring in other voices. I've had to think about how do you operationalize ensuring that you've got thoughtful and inclusive people in the room who can look at work from different perspectives. I've been Black my whole life. I don't know how to market to Black people because that's never been my job. And so there are people who are experts. And so we think about how do we bring the right thought leaders into the room as we do our work. And you know, the thing that I'm most proud of that we've done along this path is we were the first major bank to enable transgender and non-binary people to use their chosen first name on their credit card. And so that has been a game changer. If you don't know, 70% of trans people go by a name other than their legal name, and about 1/3 of them experience harassment, violence, service disruption, whatever it may be, when they go to try to use a card or an ID or something that has a name that doesn't reflect their gender expression. And so just being able to close that gap, because there are a lot of gaps for them to be able to legally change their name, being able to close that gap for our customers has been really important for me. So you didn't ask all of that.
No, that's amazing.
That's
no,
what
thank you.
DEI means to
I
me.
could listen to you talk about it all day, though, Nikki.
I could talk about it all day, so you need to cut me off.
Me too. Well, obviously, you know, super passionate about it as well. And Roslyn, I'd love for you to touch about your passion project, hashtag I Am Remarkable. Love to hear more about that and kind of how it started and what you're doing with it.
Sure thing. But first, I want to say I'm a Citi alumni too, and I am so happy to be on a panel with Nikki. She's someone that was much further along in her career when I joined Citi, and I'm just so happy to know that you're in your dream role.
Thank you.
It's so nice it's so good to hear that, because how
Yeah.
many people, you know, they wake up and they're actually excited to go to work.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
It doesn't happen that often. But it happens for all of you that are consultants at Blend, right? Every day.
But you know, I'm glad you mentioned I Am Remarkable, because that is something that I started doing by happenstance that made me look forward to going to work. So one day I got this email that I was on the Voice of the Employee Committee, and I was like, oh, okay, well, what does that mean? And I got told, okay, you can join whatever subcommittee you want. So I picked the DE&I, and I'm like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do? And at the time, there were marketers at Citi that had great relationships with Google and shared with me that there's this program called I Am Remarkable, and it's about women, you know, using their voice and talking about their accomplishments, going through things like imposter syndrome, and really coaching women and people from underrepresented groups on how to flex that muscle. So their slogan is, it's not bragging if it's based on facts.
Yes.
There you go.
And so from there, it just took off. Next thing you know, I was the organizer for 30 women from Citi to go to Google headquarters to take this training. Then HR found out about it because I didn't tell anyone I was doing it. And then they got happy and said, well, could you do another one? And then we ended up doing another one. Then they said, well, can you bring it in-house? And then next thing you know, myself and a few other women at Citi were getting trained to lead these workshops. And we just went rogue. We just rolled them. Yeah, we did. We just rolled them out at Citi. We were getting together with small groups of people and having organic conversations about the challenges that women and minorities face in corporate environments. And what was interesting was having male managers come to me and say, I really want to join one of your workshops. And I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, I manage women, I manage people that are just culturally different from me. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to support them. And so I ended up really breaking the mold and the rules of Google's I Am Remarkable curriculum by letting men, come in and
they need. Women need allies too. You
Exactly.
know, and that's great that they took it upon themselves to
Exactly.
Be a part of that.
So that was one of my joys, and I believe it became one of the official D&I strategies for Citi North America at the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Made it your own, right?
Right. I sure did.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we have about 5 minutes left. I'd love if you guys have anything else you'd like to remark. Otherwise, I'll open it to the floor for any Q&As that you guys may have and pick their brains. As you just heard, they're super knowledgeable, professionally, personally, so feel free to ask any questions. But do you guys have anything you'd like to add? Any encouragement or words of wisdom, perhaps?
I'm just going to add a bit onto what Nikki said. Is like coming in as I mentioned, I was both a consultant and a client for Blend360. And as a consultant, I was brought on to do like a maternity cover for someone who was going on maternity leave. And the person I knew on the inside I worked with in the past, she's like, oh, come on, you can do this. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And it was a 3-month assignment that turned to 6 to 9 to 12 to 15 and just like expanded from there. And one of the things I took away that I would just share with you is that you may be coming in to do a specific project or work, but at the end of the day, you can really make it your own. And ultimately what I ended up doing was not only the project, but use an opportunity to network, and I ended up turning it into a full-time role at Citi for a number of years as well after that. So just think of it not only as just kind of the project itself, but the opportunity to kind of network and take something away from it on somebody else's time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You look at you go. You're like our little blend, like caterpillar that blossom into a beautiful butterfly.
Can I just jump on that a little bit to take it a step further? If you're considering an opportunity that you don't think is 100% fit for you, if it's at a place where you have the ability to build a network and grow, and there are other things at that place that do interest you more, don't disregard it. If it's a foot in the door in a great place where you can grow, it's probably worth considering, because you will get a lot of opportunities to move around and do new things and ultimately end up in your dream job. You might not always start there, but you can get there. So always consider it, even if it's not 100% fit.
Yeah.
It could work out.
Got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's all about starting somewhere.
Right.
And, Nikki's a prime example. You start somewhere, and now she loves going to work.
Right.
She loves it, even if she has to commute into the office every day. Oh, yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
Do I have any questions from the audience? I know they'd love to answer any ones that you have. Anybody?
If not, I have something I can add.
Oh.
I would say be able to articulate what you think your interests are and where you want to go. I remembered becoming a manager and feeling like I'm going to do everything that I wish other bosses had done, and then asking people, well, what do you want to do? And they say, well, I don't know. And so just have an idea of what you have a feel for, or what you are interested in, so that the people that do support you can help you get there.
That's great. Great advice. Well, if there's no questions, anybody? All right.
Not one.
I was going to say, it's okay. It's okay. You can talk to him offline. Isn't that what we all say on Teams? We'll get to it offline. But I just want to thank the panelists. Thank you guys so much for being here. Greatly appreciate it.